Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hello, hello. So, today we are going to start working on shaping our axe. We need to make it a little bit thinner, but I think we'll probably get a good amount of the shape of that brick very quickly. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start shaping it a little bit. I want to kind of create or at least the start of the axe shape. I don't want to go all the way to the thin blade. I just want to kind of give ourselves a bit of a wedge shape today. So this weekend, I will be able to drill out the eye of this, and then starting Monday, we can open up that eye using our drifts. So I would like to finish this relatively on time. So we've got another 3 streams beyond today, but I think we got a good shot at doing it. So today, I was a little bit late getting started, so it's going to take us a little bit of extra time to heat up the block of steel. But once that heats up, we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of just trying to squish it out, trying to shape that wedge for our axe. So yeah, I'm super excited. Hopefully we'll be making a little bit more visual progress than we did on Wednesday. And from here on, we should be able to make a lot more exciting movement for our steel. So I'm super excited. And, you know, it should be fun. So I have an ad starting in about 2 minutes. And once that is over, we can kind of get started a little bit. But welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's see. I have a few sort of news sort of things to say or to talk about, but I think those I will start talking about those once that ad is over, just because I don't want it to interrupt me halfway through. So yeah, yeah. Man, it is Friday, and I think the reason that I feel like it shouldn't be Friday is because I didn't end up streaming on Monday because of my injury. So it's just, this week has just flown by. I did a lot of editing, and I'm finished with next week's video for the YouTube channel. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah. It's pretty cool out today. It's only in the 70s, which is really exciting. It's been raining, so that sun is just not burning things off, and you know, it's a little bit humid, but it's not too bad. We don't have that extra heat as well, making it all the worse. So for the moment, I just have all my ventilation, like my doors open and my window open, but I don't have my fan going yet. Eventually, I'll probably end up turning that on, but for the moment, it seems like we're doing pretty good. All right, let's turn up the heat a little bit further. We're starting to get a little bit of color in that brick, so hopefully it won't take too long to heat it up, and then we'll be able to start moving the steel. Right. I hate ads first thing in this stream because I always feel like it kind of breaks up my intro, and so I get a little bit I feel like I don't get a good running start. You know, I start and then I have to stop momentarily, and then I can start up again. So I feel like I wish that it would just put the ads up just in general. All right, so we are back from ads. So I have several weeks ago, I talked to you guys about how I have a streamer campaign, a drop campaign coming up. And I made the little icons for it, and they're all ready to go. So today, what I did was I started setting up that streamer drops campaign. So the little icons, they're ready to go. I'm kind of trying to figure out the durations and like the goals for each of them. So there are two different things that I can do for those. The first one is a subscriber goal. So right now I have that set up for 1 subscription. So if you subscribe or if you gift a subscription to my channel, you get that icon. And the icons, you can see what those look like in the picture section of our Discord. It is a hammer with the word smithy. One is a little bit more elaborate with gradients and it pops a little bit better. And then there is a second icon, and that one is for followers. So that one is for stream watch duration. So I'm starting to have a little bit of trouble figuring out how long is a fair and reasonable duration to watch the stream in order to get that drop. So at first I was like, well, I stream 12 times a month-ish, right? And I stream for about 2.5 hours. So we'll just say 2 hours. So for that, that's about 24 hours of streaming duration that I do in a month. And so I don't want you guys to have to watch every single stream in a whole month. So I thought that maybe I would do like 3 streams. If you watch 3 streams, then you could get the drop. But then I'm like, that might actually be a little bit too long as well. You know, I only stream 12 times in a month. If you miss some, you know, so I'm debating between 2 hours and upwards of like 9 hours. So if you guys have an idea for a fair duration on how long that you guys think that you should have to watch in order to get that drop, let me know. Because I honestly, I don't know. I'm really new about this, and we're kind of trying to figure things out a little bit. So I think it's probably fair for 2 hours. That way you could theoretically get it the first stream of the month and display it, or you know, you could chop that up into a few different streams. So that is going to be from August 3rd through, I believe it's August 28th or 29th, the last Friday. Because I can only do a 28-day duration. So I wanted to be, you know, our first stream of the month to our sort of last stream of the month. So that is, we were talking about, that's part of my, the housekeeping stuff that I wanted to talk a little bit about. And I'll talk about that again later when we've got more people watching. And then, let's see, how's our steel? Ooh, our steel's actually coming along pretty darn fast. So we might just be able to get into that. But yeah, so I'm pretty excited about our stream campaign. Next month is the month of August, and August is my birthday month. And I really want to celebrate my birthday with you guys. And so I figured doing a drop campaign would be an awesome way to celebrate. So we will do a birthday stream, like just an actual birthday stream, but I figure we can celebrate all month a little bit. And so I'll do the full month duration for that drops campaign. All right, let's see. Okay, so we've got some pretty nice glowy orange. So I'm gonna start our first heat, even though it's a little bit on the cold side. So let's turn on the camera over here. That way you guys can see what's going on. And let's get started. a little bit on the cold side still. But anyway. Alrighty, so we got some pretty good movement in that, even though it was still a little bit on the cold side. So I'm really expecting this to move quite a bit throughout our stream today. We're going to start with a nice brick of steel and end with a nice thin wedge, I hope. So I'm doing pretty good today. I'm feeling pretty good. And I took a look at my injury, and it's healing very well. So I'm pretty excited to be here today. So how about you guys? How are you guys doing today? I think I dropped a hair on my water today. A little bit itchy. So yeah, I'm super excited to start squishing this piece of steel. We're gonna make some good progress on our axe. So another thing that I have been considering for a little while now is I think I've made my decision. I think we're going to create a second channel on our YouTube, and I think I'm gonna start making some more ASMR content. ASMR as in shop sounds. I know there's kind of two connotations for ASMR. I'm not going to be doing any of the. It's going to be shop sounds. We're just going to say that it's going to be shop sounds. So it's just going to be a lot of our B-roll content with it's just the metal moving. No commentary from me, no music, nothing like that. It's just going to be shop sounds. ASMR is triggered differently for different people. Yes, very much so. I am very well aware of that. So I'm not going to say, or I'm not going to like label anything as ASMR, I don't think, because yeah, it's like you can go down one direction and that's kind of a scary direction, and then you can go down this other direction, and that's like more where I want to be, shop sounds, pretty visuals, nature sounds, things like that. We're gonna do shop sounds. So, it'll be hammer on the anvil and press noises and, the forge and things like that. So we're gonna see how well that goes. I probably won't get that started just yet. It'll probably take me like a week or so, and I will let you guys know when I've got that channel set up and started. I want to play around with it a little bit, see if I, can get some longer duration stuff, some shorter stuff. We'll see what we can get with that. I'm also kind of on the fence on making a third channel. That's kind of like I definitely want to do the shop sounds channel. We're gonna do that. That's for sure. I've made that decision. However, I'm debating if I want to do a secondary channel for my VODs, right? So then we would have a VOD channel and then an edited content channel. Kind of like, a lot of other streamers on Twitch, they'll have their VOD channels and their clips channels. So that's kind of like you know, I'm kind of wondering if I want to separate them. I don't have anything monetized yet on YouTube, so it's like I feel like I want it all in one, you know, because I haven't monetized anything yet. But I also am like, am I hurting myself by putting everything together? So I that's something I gotta think about. So I will talk to the butler about that and see what they think, see what you guys think, see what people on YouTube think. If you've got any advice, let me know, please. Hey, Shelly, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. So we're almost ready for our next heat. A lot of whisperers don't even experience ASMR. They think that's what ASMR is. I'm glad you're looking at it as I'm giving you the sounds, and if you experience, it's great. Yes, that's all this is, shop sound, like the press and the air compressor, and, it's not, it's not what ASMR is for me, but I don't really, experience it very often. So, but a lot of people just really enjoy the sound of industrial shops, so it's soothing for some people. Some people just find it entertaining to watch. So I've had a few comments occasionally where, people are like, well, can I have this video without, all of the commentary? And I'm like, that's not what I'm doing right now, but, maybe I should. So it's something I'm going to try at least for a little bit, and we'll see how it goes, Yeah, the sounds are great for background even. Yeah, because, it's like classical music, You put that on in the background and, it helps focus. It helps your brain kind of hone in on what it's supposed to do. Also, there's also like, a lot of EDM is very similar in that the rhythms and the arpeggios and things like that, they just kind of help you focus. And so I don't know, maybe the shop sounds do that for some people, you never know. All right, let's see, how close are we to our next heat? I think we can do another heat. It's another one that's going to be a little on the cold side, but I really want to get involved in this, and I really want to get us started with some excitement. Squishing, yes, on to squishing. So I have to admit, I've been kind of watching Ludwig, a little bit of the clips and stuff from Ludwig's Streamer University content. If you're not familiar with Ludwig, he's one of the top 100 streamers on the Twitch platform, and he has such an incredible audience, and he's gone so far with the platform that he's able to kind of teach he wants to kind of teach people how he's done it. And so I've been watching it a little bit, and what he's been saying that I've really been taking to heart is that I need to make sure that I'm giving you my best entertainment quality, you know. I don't want to just be, I want to be chill because this is a chill and educational stream, but I also want it to be exciting and interesting to watch. I don't want to be boring. And sometimes I feel like when I don't prepare enough material, sometimes it gets a little bit boring. Um, Maybe not, but I feel like I get a little bit bored. So I really want to start getting more into moving the metal, answering the questions, some exciting back and forth between, me and you guys. And we do a lot of that already on this stream. Um, but I just want to, I want it to be interesting and entertaining for you guys. We don't have to be main screen content, but I would like to be around, and bring people in. We get a lot of people who join us for a little bit and then kind of leave. I want to make sure that people stay and they feel comfortable and they are welcomed and entertained. So I'm hoping that, I don't know, maybe a few experiments here and there, and we can kind of maybe keep a few people, We've got a really loyal base, and I love you all. But, it's always good to add a few people here and there. I think what you built works. Okay. Well, I will take that into mind too, because I don't want it to change too much. I just want to, be able to have some people trickle in and out, Gas is getting more and more expensive, You want to be a ray of sunshine for all mankind, understandable. I mean, that's always been my goal, right? To be just, to help improve people's days, that's always been something that I've always wanted to do for people, even when I was in customer service, always talking to people and smiling and, having a good time. So that is kind of one of my goals here. So, if I think we have something special here, I want to share with more people, Oh, also, now that there's more people here, there's more people who can chat. Do you guys have, I talked a little bit earlier, but we didn't have too many people. But I talked to you guys about having made the streamer drop badges, right? So I set up the campaign today, and it asks me, like, there's 2 different campaigns that you can do, right? You can do a subscriber campaign, and that's the people who want that badge must subscribe X number of, times or gift, right? So I put that as 1, right? That way, our subscribers will just get it, and then those who may want to, get it themselves, they'll have the opportunity to subscribe, and they can just use their Prime for it, or whatever they want to do. You guys won't have to gift if you don't want to. But the one I'm a little bit curious about what you guys think is, do you guys, or there's a watch duration campaign, and I think that 9 hours is the absolute max that I would want people to duration, because that is, if you watch 3 streams or just over 3 streams, you'd be able to get that out of the 12 streams that I do every month. But 2 also seems like a reasonable number. You could get that in 1 stream, or you could break it up into a couple streams. So do you guys have any opinions, anything in between there? Or, right now I have it at 2 hours. Do you think the duration needs to increase? I don't want it to be not fun because it's a month-long campaign and you all get it the first time, So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. If you guys have any suggestions for me, do let me know. You start streaming at the end of my workday. It's always nice to have your stream to look forward to on my Tuesdays and Thursdays are not as bright. I wish that I could stream every day, but unfortunately I just can't right now, due to a number of different reasons. I mean, maybe sometime in the future we'll be able to stream longer and more times, but at the moment, 3 works for me for the moment, you know. All right, let's do another heat. And if you guys don't have any opinions on that drop campaign, no big deal. I'll probably just set it up to like 2 hours. You know, it's my first campaign. It can have a few hiccups here and there. I suppose I could also reduce the duration of the campaign, you know? But I just figured the entire month of August, since it's my birthday month, it would work. We can celebrate all month. It also gives people time to like acquire the badge. Because I know there's a lot of people who come in a little bit and they end up having to leave or they miss a few streams because of real life. You know, real life always comes first when it comes to, you know, streaming and playing games and things like that. So, yeah. So I was talking about for our next project, I want to do something with railroad spikes. Yeah, what is going on? I've got several railroad spikes over here in my scrap bin. So here are 2 of them. I think I've got at least 1 more, right? And so I want to do a couple of projects with just different things that we can do with railroad spikes, because, you know, what else, you know, do people think of in blacksmithing but like horseshoes and railroad spikes? So yeah, we'll see what we can do with these guys. Not a bad thing if not everyone gets one. It makes it valuable to people who come to chill. I think that is true. You know, and that's why, like, initially I wanted to go with like 9 hours or like 6 hours or whatever, you know, so people would have to come to a couple of the streams, because then it kind of incentivizes like people who stop by to maybe, you know, maybe come back, right? I want to see people again. You know, I love talking to people. I love streaming to people. So, you know, if I can get people to come back, that would be exciting for me. So yeah, railroad spikes. Maybe come back. Exactly. Hey, Bluesy. Yes, I'm begging people, please come back. You don't have to subscribe. Just come back. You know, just talk, watch. I enjoy standing up here and entertaining, you know? Hey, hey. Yeah. So yeah, I really actually enjoy streaming. You know, I feel like even if I wasn't streaming blacksmithing, I think it would be so much fun just to stream. Even if I'm streaming video games or whatever I'm streaming, I think that it would be so much fun. I love hanging out with you guys. I enjoy watching you. Well, thank you, Bluesy. Yeah, I enjoy the back and forth that we have, and I don't actually mind public speaking, and I was like really into theater as a kid, right? So it's really cool to combine two things that I really enjoy, which is performance and blacksmithing, The performance part is probably the cheaper part of that hobby, but I can't really say that the equipment that I use to stream is cheap, so I I was talking to the butler yesterday about expensive hobbies. And because I was talking about 3D printers. I know I'm just annoying, but hey, I try. No, I enjoy talking to you guys. I really do. But yeah, we were talking about 3D printers and how it would be really fun to own one. And I was just like, I don't think we can afford another expensive hobby. 3D printing, it's like you have to buy the printer and then you have to buy the little the things to the patterns to print, and you have to buy all of the filament or the resin or whatever that you're printing with. And I was like, we have a lot of really expensive hobbies. I just don't think we can add another one. And then I was like, what is our most expensive hobby? And you know what? It's this. It's streaming blacksmithing, because I'm not making a lot of money with it. So it's kind of not in the career yet. It's more like a hobby. So because we do spend money on propane, we spend money on the trips, and we have spent money on some of the equipment. A lot of it I've gotten as hand-me-downs from different locations and different things that the butler has done. But, I did have to buy a new laptop at one point, so it's not the cheapest hobby in the world, So, but I like it. It gets me out of bed in the morning. We do have an ad coming up in about a minute and a half, and so I'm going to wait and allow the steel to soak up a little bit more heat, and then once that ad is over, I'll do our next heat. Don't let me get all yammery talky until I get that squished. I've been drinking, or I tried a new packet of the water, like little packets to flavor my water. Today it's orange. I don't really feel like I put enough of the packet in here, because it tastes like a little bit like orange, but not enough. I don't think it's enough. I thought half and half would be better, but it's a little bit weak. Want to talk about expensive hobbies? Farming. Well, farming can be a hobby, but it can also be a career. At least we try to make farming a career sometimes, right? I suppose these days it is kind of a hobby. A lot of times, because a lot of the farmers have been bought out by like the corporate farmers. So I don't know. Is farming more of a hobby now than a career? Hey Corwin, welcome to the stream. I'm doing pretty good. Trying to be a little bit more entertaining, even though, I don't feel like I need to be that much more entertaining, but I'm trying. I've been looking too much at our stats, like on both YouTube and Twitch. It's a little bit depressing, but I think that we're still putting in the effort and putting in the work to get where we want to be. So I think I have a little bit more leeway. All right, we're going to have some really nice hot steel here coming up. So I think I'm going to do maybe 4 more heats, and then we'll do a little bit on the anvil face. I just got home from my son taking me to get his license. Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Watch out, everybody. Corwin Jr. is on the road. I'm sure you taught them well on, how to drive. I'm sure they're great at it. All right, let's do another heat. Every farmer I know has at least one extra job, oftentimes 2 or 3. Then people are surprised when farmer dozes off plowing, or raking, or cutting, or planting their field. I mean, yeah, my grandpa was a farmer, and he also was a semi-mechanic because he couldn't support himself and my grandma with just the farming. And I think that's kind of a shame, you know? Like, without farmers, we don't get to eat. I think farmers deserve to make a livable wage, you know? But I don't really know what the solution to that is, so. So I had a thought and I kind of lost it. Oh, I think I was going to talk about how the butler had to go to work today at 4:30 in the morning. And every time the butler has to work super early in the morning, it really throws off our cat's schedule for food, right? Because every morning the cat comes and bothers the butler at like 5:30, 6 a.m. And so the butler had to leave at like 4:30. So they didn't want to feed our cat at that early because if we feed it that early one day, then he's just going to be like, yes, I need food at 4:30 every single day and wake us up, right? So the butler left and the cat was fine until 5 a.m. when he decided that it was time for me to wake up and feed him. So at 5 a.m., I had to lock him out of the bedroom by closing the door. Because, I'm not going to feed him that early. That's too early. So he let me sleep for another half an hour until he started banging on the door and screaming outside of it. So Ray got up at 5:30 this morning and fed the cat. I immediately went back to sleep after that, but still. It's the whole uninterrupted sleep is amazing, but then when you have to wake up every half hour, you can't really get a good night's sleep, right? If farmers should pay themselves a livable wage, nobody else would be able to buy food. I mean, that's also true, but I mean, there's got to be a solution. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be a solution somewhere. You get used to it. I don't know. So yeah, I'm wondering when the butler is going to get home. Because they were supposed to go out to this like bank shoot or whatever, and it's like 3.5-hour drive and then back. So I don't know. I don't know what time they'll be home. And I also don't know if they're going to be getting dropped off or not. We've had that solution for hundreds of years, government subsidies. Yes, government subsidies is really good, But I'll leave it at that because I don't like talking about politics and any further than that would be starting to get into that, I think. So yeah. But yeah, I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of stuff or jobs otherwise, or things that people do that would otherwise be called jobs that end up being hobbies because of that. Kings had to deal with this. Yes, they did. They definitely did. Kings, politicians, everybody. Hey, mahalo, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. So we are here making a wedge out of a brick of steel. We're starting to get a pretty nice shape for the back end, the area that we are going to expand into our eye. Like I said, or like I have said a few times over the past couple streams, instead of punching this eye, what we're going to do is we are going to drill the eye. And we're going to lose some material by doing it that way, but it's going to take us a lot, or it's going to take me a lot less time than it would if I went to try and punch the steel. The last time I wanted to punch an eye, it was for our hammer, and that took us about 2 or 3 streams to get all the way through to the center and get that plug out of there. If I had a higher poundage press, or if I had a striker or a power hammer, I think I could get the eye out a lot quicker than with what I've got right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the drill press. We're going to drill a couple of holes, and then we're going to expand those out by using the drifts that we have made on stream. So we'll start with this guy, and then we will expand it even further with this guy as 2-step drifts. So by the time we get the hole all the way to about here, we should have a standard US axe handle sized eye for our axe. So that's really exciting. I'm looking forward to having a successful axe. And maybe it won't be, but maybe it will, right? You have a trainable striker that's currently at work. That's very, very true. But it's hard to be able to have them strike for me when they're at work, right? They're not in 2 places at once. They're at work and I'm here, and that's when I need my striker, right? Let's be real here. Ray just needs an axe to grind. I do need I will have an axe to grind, hopefully. But, it would be a funner pun to be like, we're going to punch him in the eye because we've got an axe to grind. But, I guess I just don't get to do both of those puns. Yes, but you have to forge the axe before you can grind it. That's very true, and that's what we are starting to do today. I don't think we'll have a full axe blink by the end of stream today, but we will have a nicely shaped wedge that we can turn into an axe head over the next couple of streams. I'm expecting this to take this stream and at least our next 3 streams, which would be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of next week. So, fingers crossed, I maintain my timeline. All right, let's do another heat. But I'm going to change the angle a little bit. Maybe we're going to go down a little bit. It's not enough of an angle change, I don't think, to be quite honest. Whoops. How about that button? That's the button I wanted to use. Oh, no. Okay. go this direction. All right, let's take a look at the shape of this guy. I want to take a look at the ends of it. Looks like we've got a decent amount, or I guess our ends are pretty flat, which is actually surprising. I thought we were going to get a little bit more fish lipping. So I do still want to take this over to the flat of the anvil and kind of flatten out the ends of this, so that we can kind of make sure that we don't get any more fish lipping. We're being pretty good about that so far, but I don't want it slipped. Grumble, grumble, it's too early. It is too early, Lexi. What are you doing awake? I'm glad to see ya, but I'm pretty sure it's like, what, 3 or 4 in the morning? I really thought your axe was excellent. So Lexi posted pictures of an axe that she made at her forge in our Discord. So if you're interested in taking a look, the Discord is in the information on the channel page, so you guys can take a look at that. The dogs are going off on a wallaby. Oh, that's about right. Back when I still had Jade, she would bark at the littlest thing. So like in the middle of the night, she'd just go barking because like we live right next to the emergency services. So we've got police and fire just over there. And she really, really dislikes the police siren for whatever reason. And she would just bark, 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 bark. And it would be, she'd wake us up. It was awful. See, I would just go back to sleep, though, personally. All your clocks are wrong. It's 21:21 in the real world. Yeah. I went to a garage sale and a marketplace meetup this morning and got 4 axes for $41. A couple of vintage double bits, a single bit felling axe, and a Boy Scout hatchet. That's actually a pretty decent haul for $41. There have been a lot of people who have been raising the prices on vintage axes because they become collector's items. So that's a pretty good haul. Do you have to do any restoration on it, or are they just usable as is? So Congress has actually passed a bill. I guess it was just the House. I think it was the House. Passed a bill that will permanently keep the United States on daylight savings time. So we would not go fall back in the fall. We would just always be on spring forward time. And I kind of feel like that is a mistake, because then that kind of modifies where we are in the time zone line. We're like an hour off from everybody else's time zone. It's like, you know, it's just, I feel like being in regular time, not daylight savings time, it would be the best implementation of getting rid of daylight savings time in general. The double-headed bit needs rehung and all need sharpening. That makes sense. You can drop huge trees with them if you're patient enough. It fixes Michigan. We shouldn't be on Central Time anyway. Yeah. I mean, it is really odd. But I mean, I feel like if you were on Central Time, because then it's like one half of Michigan would be on Central, or like, you know, if the split was correct, half of you would be on Central and half would be on Eastern, and that would be awkward, you know? The House has passed that once or twice before. The Senate has never bothered taking it up. It's always how that works, you know? It's, again, not a this time or, you know, for sure. Like, yeah, it's always the House will pass it and the Senate won't, or like the Senate will pass it and the House won't. Oh, you already are split. Okay. Your daylight savings time happens on another moment than the rest of the world. Does it? I have a 4-pound felling axe or my chainsaw for that, or a big logging 2-person crosscut saw. I've always thought that crosscut saws were really, really cool. But I also am like, the teeth are so far apart. It's like, how do you not end up bending it? And I think that, isn't there like some sort of technique? I know that because there's this girl that I watch, and she splits wood as like a TikTok and a YouTube channel. And she was practicing for like the logging contest or something like that. So she was like learning how to use one of those saws. There is a technique. Okay, see, I thought so. Okay, I think the next thing that we're going to do is go, yes, Nicole Coden. All right, we're going to go to the face. We're going to go to the face of the anvil. So let me move the camera real fast. And then we'll get back onto the press after a little bit. Just a little bit. Yes. There we go. Okie dokie. Yes, yes. I find it fascinating watching lumberjacks of all genders just cutting wood. They've got that whole contest where they're like chopping wood out of like poles and then climbing the poles and stuff. That's crazy. That is crazy, guys. Something just fell. I don't know what it is. Let me have a second to take a look. You you never ignore weird noises and weird smells in the shop, because it can cause a lot of issues. Okay, it looks like my whiteboard fell over. So I'm going to heat this back up again. We're going to do another heat on the face of the anvil, because it's now a little bit too cold, but I needed to address that situation. I would hate to make her mad. She probably has a heck of a punch. Timber Sports is on another level. Is she like the female Thorin Bradley? I don't know that I know of Thorin Bradley. But yeah, she just like, she gets these huge pieces of wood. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're huge. But she just gets these regular splitting axes and she's just like, whack. And the things just split. It's crazy. She also does these like huge ones where it takes a couple of different wedging actions to get them to split. I've also seen her start a split and then rip them open. That's also very impressive. Oh, I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day. She does it all with a smile on her face. Yes, she does. She has the muscles and the technique. She definitely does. She does. But yeah, I mean, guys doing it too, you know, it's very impressive. It's very impressive. That's the stuff Thorin does on TikTok. Okay, yeah. I do know that Nicole has like somebody else that sometimes they do like little competitions where it's like one of them will post a TikTok challenge and the other one will take up that challenge. So it might be the same person. I don't know. There's probably several people on TikTok that do that sort of content. But yes, it's impressive. It's very impressive. And I'm just like, you know, maybe I should do some of that stuff with metal. But I feel like I'd have to do it with like the big old 8-pound sledge, and I don't have a striking anvil. I'd have to have somebody to hold the steel too, right? So it'd have to be something that, you know, maybe the butler and I did together or something. I don't know. People would watch it maybe. I don't know. I do occasionally achieve some impressive feats of strength around here, but not. I still feel like the lumberjack stuff is just you know, a step above what I do here. I feel like I wow you with the glowing metal. All right. I still need a few more moments to get that heat to soak all the way through. We're at a nice orange. I wanna raise it up to, you know, a bright orange. 2027, Ray will be jacked. Actually, I won't. I have tried to be jacked. There have been times where I have done quite a bit of working out just to see if I could get muscles, you know? I got some nice abs at one point in my life, but my arms, I can't get them anywhere past this. These are like little string bean arms. I just can't do it. Yeah, I agree. And then you have to put your strength up against farm strength, right? Some of the wood here won't even split with a hydraulic wood splitter. There's no way I'm going to try it with an axe. Wow, if you can't split it with a hydraulic wood splitter, yeah. I highly doubt I would want, you know, that a human would be able to do it unless you know, maybe it's like, I don't know. There's just some woods out there, like the hardwoods, the really hardwoods. That'd be hard. I'll hold your beer. All right, let's do another heat. We're a little bit more glowy now. Exciting, exciting. It's wanting to move around on me. Okay, I think we're doing all right. And I think the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to put this guy in the press this direction because we've got a little bit of shaping that side. And that's because the half round dies aren't completely covering the entire brick. So we're only getting about this much movement. That's why I've been turning this every time. So we're going to try it this direction. Or no, this direction. This direction. This is gonna be a big ol' axe. I wanted it to be small. I really wanted this to be smaller than that axe, but I think it's gonna be about the same size. Oh man, I've seen farmers toss bales of hay. That's crazy. Oh, Ray's strong. I mean, I've seen a farmer toss bales of hay up to a hay wagon 12 rows high or more. That's so impressive too. You know, just like hefting the rectangular bales. I tried that once when I was like 14 and I could not manage it. But I'm a lot stronger now than I was then. So, you know. The last tree we cut up, maybe 16 inches in diameter. One cut smoked a brand new chain. Oh man, that's sad. You know, spending the money for a chainsaw and a chain, a chain, and then having it just like die immediately. That happens to me occasionally with like angle grinder discs, or you know the chop saw discs. But at least those are a lot cheaper than chainsaw chains. But I mean, I guess that's why, you know, you buy a couple of them at a time, right? It's a bit of technique, but a lot of power. Yes, you do need a lot of power. I think you're referring to tossing the bales of hay. Ooh, it's starting to get pretty warm in here now. It's starting to get pretty warm now. I might turn on the fan. Give me just a moment. Got to get some of that cool, rainy air in here. All right, I also need to change the angle of the camera now that we are going back to the press. To the press. Upsy daisy, let's go pretty high. That way we can kind of see from the top. Make sure that it is in focus. Hee-hee. Yeah, I used to be able, so it's just practice. I mean, I'm a lot smaller than you are. Like I said, I mean, I'm a lot stronger than I was back when I was like 14. Yeah, we picked up a new saw and a spare chain. Now we're waiting on a new Dremel diamond burr to sharpen them. Makes sense. Yeah. I've heard that you can sharpen chainsaw chains. And I mean, I think you can actually sharpen most tools. Because to hell with the file method, right? That take forever. All right, we are in the middle of an ad break. Let me take a look at our steel. Once that ad is over, we should be able to get another heat in. Itchy. Itchy eyes. I cannot wait for my finger to finish healing. I've had 5 days for it to heal, and it's about halfway healed. I'd like to have the next 5 days go real fast. I mean, I feel like it'd be nice to be able to heal in a montage. That way I don't have to, like, you know, wait for it, not use it. It is a pain in the butt not using it. Yeah, we picked up a new file, but neither of us is motivated enough to use it when the diamond burrs are on the way. It would be a lot easier and a lot better, you know, to use the power. Using the diamond burrs is going to be a lot thicker, but a lot faster, but it's also going to be a lot easier to ruin it, you know, if you go a little bit too far. So I'm glad that, you know what you're doing. I would probably ruin it. So yeah, I would love to be able to use my pointer finger again. So I feel very jealous of all of the TV people. They get like injured in fights or whatever, because action and whatnot. And then they're up and about it or at him, and like, the next minute or 5 minutes or whatever. I think the healing should work that way. Obviously it doesn't, but it'd be nice. Okay, let's do another heat. See if I can get it out of the forge. That would be real nice. We're almost to the point now where I'm going to have to decide which side I want to turn into the wedge and which side I want to drill the eye in. So we're going to take a look at it within the next couple of heats. We're going to make that decision. Saw chain is consumable. Sharpen it however you want. See, I wouldn't even know where to begin with sharpening it. We have a chainsaw, but it's like a dinky little thing. And the butler uses it occasionally to trim like bushes and stuff like that, but I don't use it at all. I think Adam is ready to put out the cash for carbide tooth chain. I have never used one, so I don't know if they're going to be worth the spend. Like I said, we have a chainsaw. I've never used the thing. I kind of feel like maybe I should try it, but it's one of those things where if you're afraid of a tool, then it never ends well. And for whatever reason, I'm a tiny bit afraid of chainsaws. I wasn't afraid of the welder. I wasn't afraid of like the table saw or the chop saw or the miter saw, but I am, for whatever reason, afraid of a chainsaw. And I think it's because all of those other saws, save like the table saw, have like a guard on them. So the Sharpie side that spins or moves isn't looking at me, Okay, carbide ones work a lot better but are harder to sharpen. I would imagine they would be. I also think that part of the reason maybe that I'm not a fan of chainsaws, that I'm a little afraid of them, is because they use chainsaws at haunted houses. So then there's that other implication. And I mean, normally a chainsaw at a haunted house, they don't even have the chain on it. It's just that noise and, the guides. But still, it's a little bit intimidating to me. So I've never gotten the guts to try it. You should be afraid of a chainsaw. You need to have a healthy fear, not so much of the saw, but of the splinters and such. Yeah, I mean, I know that they have special gear for chainsaws over at like the hardware store. Like they have hard hats that have, headphones and like a full-on face mask. Not just like safety glasses, but like a face shield. So, and it does. It intimidates me. But Jekyll uses one as an instrument. Chainsaw is like most of their power tools. It'll eat you if you misuse it. Yes. And that's why I'm a little intimidated by it. And I mean, I feel like it's a little bit antithetical because like I use so many other tools that have at least a similar amount of damage that could be done if misused. And it's still, I'm fine with those. It's that. It's the chainsaw. I mean, I've got a porta bandsaw or like a bandsaw, and that's another band of a saw blade that goes around in the little like circles and stuff. But there's more safety around it, I feel like. All right. Let's do another heat. Hey, Yankee, welcome to the stream. We're just about to decide which side of this X blank is going to be the eye and which side is going to be the blade. I haven't decided quite yet. Alright, so as I look at the piece of stock, I think that we're pretty even on our lineage. It looks relatively parallel. We're going to need one more heat where we just turn it this direction so we can take out that nice curve, or I guess the curve we don't want. And then we'll have nice parallel lines for sides. I think what we're going to do is we're going to turn this side over here into the blade. And I think the reason for that is because I put that extra like little cut in the side. And this side we're going to be doing a lot of grinding on. So I think it's going to lend itself to taking out that little slash if we start the blade on this side and the eye on that side. Thank you so much for that follow, Matt Hackwrench. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. Hello, hello. I hope you're having fun. I know I am. I very much enjoy blacksmithing and sharing blacksmithing with all of you. So I was complaining earlier about how I used powdered Gatorade in my water today. And at the beginning of the stream, it tasted very much weak, right? And now I'm getting to the very bottom, and I'm starting to get a lot more powder, I think. because it's super, super strong. Now it tastes like almost orange juice itself. So I don't know. I think I needed to like stir it or shake it a little bit more when I made it today. Punched or wrapped eye. We are actually going to drill out the eye. Ordinarily, with a block this big, I would definitely punch it, but I don't have the time or the press strength to do a proper punch during the duration that I want to finish this project in. I would like to finish this project a week from today, at least the forging section of this project. And so the last time I punched the eye, it was in a hammer, and it took me 2 streams to do it because I just don't have a lot of strength in my press. Dimension-wise, what dimension is it? I started with a round piece of axle that was 2 1/4 inches in diameter and about 3 inches long. So it's about a 4-pound brick of steel. I haven't measured it in a little while. It's probably closer to 3.5, 4 inches wide, probably around 5 inches long, and maybe 1.5 inches deep. So it's pretty darn big, and I have a lot of material that will be available for me to just lose by drilling and by grinding. So I'm not worried about the extra. No idea what that means. American measurements, but I'll find out when I see it. Let me look and let me have Google translate for me. So it is about 7.62 centimeters wide. By about 3.81 centimeters deep. Yeah, thanks. And I'm going to say it's around 5 inches, so 12.7 centimeters long. So it's pretty darn big. It's pretty hefty. It's about the size of this guy right here. So we've got plenty of material to hog out, to drill out, because the reason that you would choose punching as opposed to drilling is because you would lose less material. And I have plenty of material to lose. So my original plan was to just make a hatchet, but I cut off too much material for a hatchet. All right, let's do another heat. But first, let me check my camera settings. We are gonna go like so. Alrighty, let's do another heat. So this is the brick that we're going to be using. I think we're doing all right. Like I said, I got this nice slash right. I guess not nice. I've got this slash right here that I want to take care of. So what I think I'm going to do is we're going to start turning this brick into a wedge. And so I want the wide side, the side that's going to have the eye in it, to be this side. And then, whoops, we're going to drop it. Drop it, drop it. Drop it like it's hot, because it is hot. And so this side is going to be the blade of that axe. If you want to hand forge larger axes, I highly suggest wrapping the eyes. You gain a lot of size from smaller dimensions versus punching drilling. Yeah, I get that. But when I do, a wrap implies a forge weld, and right now I don't have the ability to do any forge welding inside my shop. The big forge right here does not get up to forge welding temperatures. The little forge over there does get up to forge welding temperatures, but it's a little bit too small for an axe blade. So I would have to use my coal forge for my forge weld, and I don't have a vent for it. So when I want to use coal, I have to move the whole setup outside. So there is a little bit of logic. A little bit. Sometimes. I also feel like if I was going to do a wrap, I would not have started with such a large piece of stock. But I mean, that was, you know, your point, is I wouldn't have had to use such a large piece of steel if I were going to be using a wrapped method. So, I mean, I've tried wrapped methods before. This was my first attempt at a wrapped axe, and I used way too much steel. I had no idea what I was doing, and I did not thin out the butt end of it nearly enough. So I ended up ripping the two sides apart. So we ended up putting that one up on, you know, as a reminder of what we learned. This one was our second attempt at an axe, and I made the eye way too tiny because I had no idea what size I should make an eye. So this was my axe strip. It's teeny tiny. And so what I did was our previous project before we started this one was this axe drift. So we can start with this one and continue that drift with this guy right here. I still have yet to do a little bit more grinding on this guy. I got it partially grinded or ground, and I had to stop. So this weekend I'm going to finish grinding this guy, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I get a really nice chopping axe out of this brick by the end of a week from today. That's my goal, is to finish this, or forging this piece, a week from today at the very latest, so that I can do a little bit of grinding that weekend and have it finished before August 1st. The reason I want to finish it by August 1st is I am a part of a blacksmithing challenge community over on Instagram. And this month we have it's a monthly challenge. So you get your topic at the beginning of the month, and you have till the end of the month to complete it. This month's challenge is an axe head. So I'm trying to challenge myself by making a really big one. But I mean, making an axe in general is just a challenge for me, because I'm not amazingly great at, you know, making axes yet, since I've only done 2. Way strong. forging is the ultimate type of forging, in my opinion. I don't know. Axe forging is one of those things that you can make it as simply or as complex as you desire, especially if you're starting to get into adding in pattern welded steel, like bits and bodies. So, I mean, you can make it as easy or as complex as you want to. So, I will say, perhaps, you know, it's not my favorite thing to forge. I think my favorite thing to forge is like frying pans. Anything with sheet metal. I love making armor, like plate armor, and I love making frying pans, cookware, things like that. Mostly because I really enjoy combining silversmithing techniques with blacksmithing. It allows me to create vessels for much cheaper than when I used to have to use, non-ferrous and semi-precious metals for bull raising. All right, let's do another heat. And for this heat, we are going to start really laying in on making that wedge shape. Pattern welded isn't difficult. I'm talking about advanced construction. Say hewing an axe made of 4 or 5 pieces forge welded. Then you need to shape right, the dimensions right, heat treat, sharpening, eye size, etc. Yeah, I did actually watch Niles Augerin put together a 5-piece axe, which was really complicated and it was very impressive. But then, you start with pieces of pattern welding inside of that, and it would be really impressive. Sure, but it doesn't add anything to it. Steel and mild steel or pattern welded steel makes no difference in the process. I mean, yeah, like, aside from pretty, But I mean, that's what pattern welded steel is. It's just a way to make things pretty. There are plenty of high carbon steels that are at least as good as pattern welded for maintaining a sharp blade. But pattern welding makes it look pretty and impressive. But I mean, you can really make a lot of blacksmith items like as complex as you want. Like if you're looking for like a gate, all of the intricacies that you can do with just the concept of a gate. You can put 100 pieces of steel into individual pieces into a gate. It would be gorgeous, So it's kind of like you can make things as complex or as pretty or exciting as you want to, I think right now I'm mostly just learning the basics of blacksmithing, just moving the steel and kind of finding my way through that. And, in the future, I hope to be able to add more design and more pattern and complex design into some of my projects. But for the moment, uh, getting a nice taper can be a challenge. I started blacksmithing in 2010, but I didn't really move a lot of steel. Most of what I did back then was like twists and bends and things like that. So it really wasn't until 2024, like the end of the year, that I really started focusing on moving steel and just kind of drawing things out and just learning how steel is going to move. So I don't feel like I'm quite adequate yet. But we're getting there. We're learning. All right. I am out of liquid. So we've got an ad starting in about a minute and a half. So when that ad starts, I'm going to go into the house and I'm going to grab another water. Nice. Good luck. Yeah. I am doing my best. We're learning a lot. I've grown a lot since November of 2024. I can get a taper that's actually, even throughout an entire bar. I can start moving steel. We're getting there. We got a long way to go, but we're on the journey. That's the exciting part, being on the journey. I've got a lot of head knowledge. I got to put it into practice and make it practical knowledge. There's a big difference. You can read all the books, you can watch all the videos on YouTube, you can watch all the demonstrations, but if you don't get out there and actually do it, put it in practice, what is it? It's just head knowledge. All right, we've got a good amount of heat. We're gonna get some good movement, so I'm gonna grab my water and I'll be right back. Check my camera real fast. I wish I had enough cable that I could go at it from the opposite side of the dies, but I just don't have the cable to move it far enough over that I'm not blocking the forging with my body. All right, so we've got a few more seconds left in our ad. Some of you, I'm sure, are already back. All right. Let's do another heat. Welcome back, everybody. Everybody else who had to see the entire minute and a half of ads. I'll have to hand hammer that down. Today's project is planing down and sanding down handles for top tools. Yay, making wood chips and dust. Ooh, handles. I'm awful at woodworking, guys. I am awful at woodworking. That's why I want to make a standard size US axe eye so that I can just put the handle in there and not have to, because you know I want to have to, or I want to be able to buy a handle instead of make it by hand. I mean, if I just wanted to, you know, make whatever size I wanted, you know, that'd be great. But then I'd actually have to make my handles by hand. I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. I used to make a lot of furniture, mostly fabrication projects where I was welding steel together, doing some twisting in the forge, bending and things like that for making nice designs. Everything, all the pieces got welded together. I didn't even bother like wrapping things or hiding my welds, but I would try and put wooden seats on them and, you know, wooden tops and things. Every single time I had to remake the tops or the seats or whatever, because I am not good at woodworking by any means. That is a separate skill that desperately needs practice. So I don't know if anybody's got like, you know, a line on somebody who's a woodworker that wants to make seats and backs and stuff for furniture. You know, I can make legs. I'm really good at making legs. Handles at the store are $50, so it seems more prudent to make them, I think. Are they? I did not pay that much for most of my handles. That handle cost me $12. This big old handle right here. And it's hickory. Here they are. Well, yeah. I would definitely make my handles too. I would figure out a way to do it if I had to pay $50 per handle. The handle I had for my hammer that I made, that thing was $8. Hey, Blue Red, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. $8. You know? $50 Australian is like 15 here. Oh, is it? I don't know what the conversions are. And it also changes like every day. So, you know, I don't pay attention to that. I pay attention to steel prices. My back itches for no reason. Yeah, I pay attention to steel prices and like, you know, the stock market sort of kind of, because it's just there in the Google panels and stuff. But I don't really pay that close of attention to currency exchange. It's actually $35. 35 to 40 US dollars. Okay. 50 Australian dollars is 34.89 US dollars. See, like I said, it moves all around. It moves all around. All right. Let's see. Let's do another heat. Ah! As I about drop it, I did just drop it. That's awesome. See if I can't just, you know, pick this up and stuff. Uh-oh. The clamp that holds my bottom die on has decided it wants to escape. All right, let's put this back in the forge, and then we will put that back on. Let's go, babe. In my head, I still think of pricing in US dollars, so I see $50 for a handle, and I say to myself, nope, I'll just make one. I think I would be that way too. I won't lie. Okay, I did take the right camera. Alright. That should be nice and on there now. Okay. So we're starting to get a nice wedge going. I'm going to do a couple more heats on the press, and then we're going to come back to the face of the anvil to kind of flatten it out a little bit. The half round dies of our press keep putting in like little round divots, and it makes the whole thing kind of remind me of a crinkle cut French fry. And I talk about that a lot, but I want to smooth out the edges and make sure that everything is nice and flat, and that way I can draw it out longer and wider, and it'll be a much more even taper. Bunnings doesn't carry small hammer handles, only sledge ones, so I gotta buy the big one and trim it down to the small one. If I'm gonna do all that anyway, why buy the handle? That makes sense too. I feel like I'm probably, at an advantage because I've got a farm supply store not that far away from here. It's just down the hill, a couple miles down the road. And I can buy axe handles, I can buy sledgehammers or handles, I can buy hammer handles, pickaxe handles, all the things that you need. Even like post hole digger handles. They're pretty nice. Pretty nice. Now if I could find a place that I could buy shirts, right? I go to I often buy like my pants from the Rural King, which is the farm supply store, and I go in the men's section, to buy the heavier duty pants, but I don't fit the shirts. So I either have to go to the women's section or I have to figure out another place to get them. I don't like the pictures on the women's clothes in there. I don't really like pictures on my clothes unless they are blacksmithing related, right? So I like this shirt because this shirt is an IBA shirt. So here it's got the IBA logo for the Indiana Blacksmith Association, and then it's got, their little design on the back, and that's really cool. I like that. I like Metals Museum shirts, and other various Blacksmith Association shirts, but other than that, I just want plain colored t-shirts, and I cannot find them at the farm supply store. All the women's shirts have designs on them, and they're all frilly patterns and stuff. Living near farms has advantages with finding those things. Yes, exactly. Post hole digger handles? Try spade handles. Is there a boys section in that store? I mean, maybe. I haven't really looked. I think I'm buying boys pants, because when I look for the sizes, I gotta look for 28 waist and 30 inseam. And they're a little bit on the long side. You can kind of see they bunch up a little bit. So I don't know. I'll have to see if there's big enough boys' shirts for me that don't have pictures on them. I do wear shirts that have pictures on them sometimes, but I'd rather have plain shirts or blacksmithing related shirts, especially when I'm streaming, you know. Ow. Maybe don't forget that you have an injury, Ray. Maybe don't forget you have an injury. There we go. So yeah, I know there's somebody out there thinking, why does she wear boys' clothes instead of women's clothes? The reason I don't buy women's clothes is because they got no pockets, right? This pair of pants, I can put like, you know, my whole hand up to my wrist in the pocket, right? I could put like this much of my hand in the women's pocket. I need my pockets. Ray, just a reminder you're injured. Yeah, I forgot for a moment that I have an injury right here, and I went to grab the tongs with that section of my hand. I'm like, ow. I miss pockets. Yes, pockets. I love the pockets. Also, for whatever reason, guy pants are a little bit thicker than women's pants, so they don't wear quite as easily. I mean, it used to be too that I could buy more cotton in my pants if I bought men's pants than women's pants, because women's pants have a lot of spandex in them. But that's not even true anymore, because I look at the content, or you know, the fiber content in these pants, and it's like nylon. And I'm like, if I have too much nylon in my clothes and I drop a piece of steel on them, they're just gonna melt to me, and that's bad. So I have to pay close attention. Cargo pants. Yes. You can't buy cargo pants in women's sections in the store, at least here in the US. They don't have them. These are cargo though. I have a pocket right here. It's got a zipper, I think. Something like that. Where's the zipper? I've kind of lost it these days. See? Zipper pants. Cargo. I have cargo jeans. Yeah, but yeah, nylon. It's in everything. I went to try and get a hoodie last year because my hoodies are all like ripped up from being in the shop. But they were 100% cotton. My old ones. It took me like a month and a half to find something that was 70% cotton here in the United States. I'm so disappointed. You know, I don't want nylon in my forging clothes. You have to be a hot steel ninja to dodge it in bullet time. Yeah. Really? You know, cotton, if you can find it. Also wool, natural fibers. Wool's good too. It's hard to find wool clothing here in the United States that's not a sweater, You gotta pay good money, like really high dollar, to get wool that has a soft fiber. Wool, it shouldn't be itchy though. Like if you get a good weave, wool isn't itchy. But here in the U.S., they don't want to pay enough. They don't want to, make enough from good wool. Cotton is not that great. You want wool. I mean, cotton is too short fibered. If I could do wool, because the cattle farmers drove nearly all the sheep farmers in the U.S. Yes, or they drove them out. Yeah, there aren't that many sheep farmers. Wool suits aren't itchy, but you wouldn't want a Smith in that. No, that would be so warm. I have considered linen, linen shirts, like the reenactment ones. And a lot of Smiths do wear linen clothing. Ah. Oh, come on. My bricks are being dumb. My bricks are being dumb. We're starting to get a nice wedge going. So I think for our next heat, we're probably going to go over to the face of the anvil so I can get rid of this little shelf that's starting to form. And some of these little ridges. I think we're getting to a point where I'm going to want to drill my holes over the weekend, which is really good. Maybe I'm allergic to wool. I don't know, but every time I wear wool, it makes me itchy. Actually, wool is not that hot. It insulates. Yeah, so like I said, so fiber coarseness is very much an issue with wool. A lot of times people will they just want wool yarn, right? It's really easy to find wool yarn. It's not really easy to find wool thread, right? So if you actually have a good wool weave with like a really thin threading, it's not going to be itchy. The reason that your sweaters are itchy is because they have a really, really thick thread count. And yeah, there's just always like little pieces of wool sticking out. It makes it really awful to wear. I typically wear shorts and at most a t-shirt and sandals in the forge. Airflow is more important. The worst part of a demo we did on the 4th was I had to wear pants all day. It's the one day a year I wear pants. See, I always wear pants. I always wear pants. I'm just used to it at this point. I'm not going to tell you why I wear pants all the time. I don't like, or I mean, I guess because I don't like showing my legs. But, you know. Safety sandals. I don't know. As long as I found for me, as long as I wear wide leg pants with a lot of area to move around in, that I oftentimes don't, it's not hot for me. I get enough, but if I have pants that are like super tight, you know, like girl pants, those are when it's uncomfortable because then you start sweating and you sweat through them and then they get even tighter. It has to be 100 degrees before I will wear shorts, and even then, not always. Yes, you're right. That's why I only wear pants. However, I have really fast growing hair. Yep. Okay. I said I was gonna go. Yeah, that would not work either. It would not be a long enough duration solution. We have tried multiple things. It's just not worth it. All right, face of the anvil. Like I said, we are going to take the sides and kind of flatten them out. I'm poor. I'd rather put that money here into the shop. All right, let's do another heat. Drop forge. Ow. You know, one of these days, it'll heal. And then it won't be painful anymore. I'm not going to say one of these days I'll remember because that ain't happening. You get yourself one of those rust remover lasers. That would be super funny. That would be super funny. All right, so we're going to do a couple more heats here on the face of the anvil. We are getting quite a bit of jumping. So I think I'm going to pull out this guy. We're going to get a lot less jumping, but we're still going to get some. So yeah. We've got an ad coming up in about 2 minutes. And yeah. After that, we'll probably do our next heat. I also need to move the fan because we were getting a direct line from the fan to the piece. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm going to need to change my Band-Aid. I think it'll be all right, though. That way, it's not blowing directly on our piece of steel. See, my problem is that I took off the Band-Aid to take my morning shower, and I got it caught in my hair when I was shampooing, and I opened it up a little bit, and so now it's being dumb. All right. So what's on the grinder bit your finger? So I have just a grinding stone on a bench grinder, and I was grinding on this guy, which is our drift, and I had just dunked it in my quench bucket because it was starting to get warm, and so it was a little bit slick. Yeah. So I slipped and I bit myself. Do we need some crazy girl sealing? Probably. Probably. New skin. I've got some new skin in the medicine cabinet. I haven't had any issues with it prior to this, so it was all right. So I don't know. Maybe I'll slather some new skin on after stream. New skin works great, but it hurts going on. It does, especially if it's a little bit if it's not perfectly clean, it hurts even worse. Usually, obviously you want to like clean it off with like alcohol or peroxide or whatever, and then put the new skin on. But if you don't get it all, it hurts even worse. I've covered torn blisters with it. Yeah, that works great too. That works great. Just dunk in some alcohol after that. Nothing will hurt. Right? I definitely need to dunk it in some alcohol just to make sure that none of the dirt from the shop got in there. But yeah, so I've got on it here is a butterfly bandage, and then it's covered with a Band-Aid. So, and I've also got a whole bunch of Neosporin in there. So, after a while, you got to undo all of the bandages and get rid of the Neosporin so it can dry out a little bit. But yeah, the butterfly ones work great when you have a bend. Yes. Nothing like cleaning parts with acetylene and finding cuts you didn't know you had, right? That happens to me a lot, to be quite honest. Especially when I'm working with like a steel brush. It doesn't hurt or anything when you are, when you cut open your fingers, but then you feel it later. That used to happen to me a lot more when I was working at the jewelry store, though. Weird noises, guys. Weird noises. Alright. Drop forge. All right, let's get some more heat. Happens in the kitchen too when you're messing with vinegar or salt, right? But yeah, I used to, when I worked at the jewelry store, what would happen is my fingers would dry off or dry out from polishing all of the rings, and then, you know, going from water to washing my hands to drying them, and all of the different like abrasives, as well as like the lubricants for making the burrs and stuff, or for using the burrs. And then I wouldn't realize I had cuts, you know, because my skin was starting to get chapped. And so then I'd drop a piece of jewelry in the alcohol, and then I have to pull it out, because in a jewelry shop, you use a solution of half pickle, half, or I guess half flux, half alcohol as a fire coat, and then you put more flux on the on the joint that you're trying to solder. And so if I accidentally like dropped it into the alcohol and flux mix, I'd have to pull it out. Sometimes the tongs just don't work right, so you have to use your fingers. All right. I think we're doing pretty good so far. We're getting a nice wedge in here. And so yeah, over the weekend, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out the holes that we're going to start for the eye. And on Monday's stream, we are going to start drifting out those holes, expanding them out, making sure they're nice and wide and ready to put the handle in. And then we're going to continue working on the blade. I suppose we're not going to go all the way open until after we're closer on the blade, because I don't want to accidentally widen out the eye too much so that it's too big for our handle. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a partial drift and then work on the blade, and then go back to finish off the drift. So we're going to start with the holes already in on Monday. Okay. Let's do this. I think I'm going to do that first, and then we're going to move the camera again so that I can use the horn a little bit later for our next couple of heats. Get a better angle on that. All right. I think we're doing pretty good on that. So for our next heat, I'm going to move that camera, and then we're going to start working on the skinny edges, like so. and kind of put in a little bit of a curve. Alrighty. Alright. The reason I didn't mind the way I did is because I didn't want to make a drift. I had a round drift that was the size already. Yeah, I get ya. And it is a lot easier to make a wrapped axe if you know, when you don't have a drift or a proper drift. And I did debate actually just doing a hammer drift instead of an axe drift when I made that one, because I also want to make some good hammers in the near future. And I just decided that I was just going to go with an axe drift because that's the proper tool for the proper job. We'll probably do another drift at some point in the future. Hopefully something a little bit smaller than that, or maybe I'll just buy one. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I just wanted the proper tool for the proper job. I've got this habit of trying to cut corners so that I don't have to spend as much money and as much time doing things. And a lot of times I find that I end up spending way more time and money when I'm trying to, you know, cut corners. So I just decided, do it right. Ooh, hammers, don't tease me. I made one. I wasn't happy with it. I need to make a couple more because I've got the Miramac wants to do an art trade, and they want a hammer so that they can use it to wedge open like little pieces of firewood for their kilns. So if I'm gonna make a hammer for them, I want it to be really nice, and so I need to practice hammer making before I before I actually do an art trade. Do you make claw hammers too? You can make claw hammers. I've never done it. I've only ever made one hammer. The hammer that I made doesn't even work that well. This is the only hammer I've ever made. It's a cross peen. It's like a little 2-pounder. And it's kind of ugly, if you ask me. So I like to make an actual, like, good, usable hammer. But, you know, it takes time and practice. If it works, it ain't gotta be pretty. Yeah, but I want it to be pretty, guys. I want it to be pretty. I made one claw hammer out of raw iron. It is the first time I punched and drifted raw without it splitting on me. That is quite the challenge. Very impressive. But I mean, I only know of raw iron by description. I know it's really difficult to work with sometimes. But, you know, I've never actually had a piece to try. So, you know, maybe one day I'll get a hold of some. Maybe one day. Do a little dance, man. Do a little dance. Try not to drop the steel on your toes. Oh, it's touching the top of my hammer. That's the best. All right, more heat. Mmm. Smells yummy. Like a grill. All right. Real wood handle test passed, right? So, it's all right. It's all right. You can find it at Quad State. There's always someone selling raw, but all the good stuff is gone by Tuesday. I can imagine, but I'm not going to make it on Tuesday or by Tuesday. I think the earliest I'll make it is Thursday. Oh, the Quad State is enforcing that you can't be there any earlier than Tuesday this year, according to the booklet. There's a few new rules that people are going to have to follow. I'm not sure if they had issues last year or if it's just something that they've been trying to do and it never ends up working or what. Oh, it's always been that way. Is it? So yeah, I probably won't get there until Thursday or Friday. I'd like to get there Thursday just so that I can have a little bit of time to kind of relax and get my bearings before I have to really start laying in on the work, you know? But yeah, we always showed up on Tuesday and left the following Monday. That makes sense. Yeah. They try to shut down your black market dealing in wrought iron. Probably, maybe, no. No, it's just, you know, when you got wrought, people want it. So, you know, they're going to buy it immediately. That's going to be one of the first things that goes. So, yeah. I do think that I could, or that there is the possibility of making a hammer at Quad State. I was told that this year I have to pay the toll, which is to make a hammer, because I was hanging out at Brazil Nut Grove, their campsite, and the Indiana blacksmith campsite. It's a really nice one. And yeah, they're like, you can't hang out if you don't make a hammer with us. The guy that sells the spline steel is always sold out by midday Tuesday. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. All right. So I think this is probably going to be our last heat for the day. We are at around the 2.5 hour mark. So I will be back on Monday. Fingers crossed and all that, unless something crazy happens. I doubt it though. So I will be back on Monday to continue working on this axe. We will start drifting it open and start really laying in on the blade, shaping it up, making it a functional axe. All right, let's do our last heat. One more heat. He brings just enough every year to pay for his trip. I'll bet. It can get expensive. Maybe he'll add more this year because the trip's going to be more expensive. Gas is insane. that over there, and let's get a better grip on this steel. There we go. Better, better. Alrighty. Or I could just drop my hammer right there. Alright guys, I think that's all she wrote. I think we're getting a pretty nice looking wedge there. A little bit further and we will have a axe shape on that blade. We will be putting in the eye in this direction right here and opening it up. $4.54 a gallon at Costco, about 25 minutes south of here. Well, Iowa has cheaper gas than Illinois does. We also have Missouri, but it was almost $5 when the butler told me about it earlier, or yesterday, I think. It's getting close to $5 a gallon. That's crazy. Anyway, so I will see you guys on Monday. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend and rest of your day today. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me. I have had a blast. I hope you guys have as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. Thanks for the stream. Yeah. Yee. 8 US per gallon. That's crazy. Alright, let's see who's around that we can raid off to. We're gonna go to Junkyard 129. Woodworking. Alright, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye!